We heard about Obamacare, and now we're hearing about ObamaNet, and I don't even know what it means. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what I don't know. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance, and I'm sure we're supposed to fight it, whatever it is.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Hi, friend. One of the reasons that I have not discussed the FCC seizing control of so much of the internet is because I don't understand it. And I refuse to use this TV show for me to just shoot from the hip. I'm not going to do it. Now, what I will do right now is I'm going to read to you the headlines that are on the front page of Drudge as of this exact second, okay? FCC chair refuses to appear before Congress ahead of internet takeover. Left groups now fear government net grab going too far. Soros cash behind push. Plan could lead to UN takeover of the internet. Boy, there's a hot button. The UN taking over the internet and George Soros pushing with his cash. This sounds really dark. The commissioner, quote, independence of agency has been compromised. Next one, lawless. Next one, net neutrality tweaked after Google push. Historic vote set for today. So, and here's one other headline. FCC Commissioner Ajit Pai, sounds like an Indian name perhaps, net neutrality is a solution that won't work to a problem that doesn't exist. Now, this is an FCC commissioner. There are 5 members of the commission. They are all appointed. They are all unelected. Now, one of the reasons that I have not been able to get much detail about what is going on is because the reporting on it has been so shoddy. There's just barely any details out there, at least that we've been able to find. What we do know is that President Obama wants these regulations, all right? So Congress said to Wheeler, we want you to testify before you release hundreds of pages of new regulations that no one got to see, no one got to vote on. We want to ask you some questions about your interfacing with the White House. Are you at the beck and call of Obama right now? Are you doing this at his behest? It also appears that there's going to be taxes, that Netflix is going to have to pay Comcast or other internet providers to make sure that they have the speed that they want. But when you have one of the commissioners saying a solution that won't work to a problem that doesn't exist, and you have Obama saying that the FCC has got to have these regulations because it's the only way that it will stand up to court muster, then it looks to me like there is the seizing of American freedom and that there's going to be taxes. This somehow has to do with money and control, all right? Money and control. That's Obama. That's socialism, all right? Money and control. I'm going to close this segment and then move on to other stuff. It will all come out over the next few days when the regulations are finally publicly released and people have a chance to pore over them like they pored over Obamacare. Remember, they voted on Obamacare before they read it. We'll get a chance ultimately. But I'm going to say some things here that this is food for thought. I'm going to kind of bring a whole bunch of little issues together. There was a poll that came out 2 or 3 years ago in which 42% of Americans said that it was likely that we were going to need a revolution, shooting bang bang revolution, to restore our constitutional rights. That's a terrifying number. Now that was a private poll. People were allowed to keep their anonymity. and they spoke honestly. So when you walk down the street, 4 out of the 10 people that you see, or 3 out of 10, believe that a shooting war, a shooting revolutionary civil war is going to be needed to restore our constitutional liberties. That's terrifying. Add to that Homeland Security is buying these huge armored vehicles. Homeland Security is buying millions and millions and millions of rounds of ammunition and making it difficult for American citizens to buy ammunition because the ammo manufacturers can't keep up with the orders because so many rounds have been purchased by Homeland Security. Add to that the words of John F. Kennedy. If you make peaceful protest impossible, you make violent protest inevitable. I think it was either JFK or Robert Kennedy. It was during the civil rights uprisings and peaceful protest and violence. If you make peaceful protest impossible, you make violent protest inevitable. There are people who believe in this poll that there's going to be a shooting revolutionary war. I don't agree with them because I think that the American populace is so outgunned by the federal government. What could happen would be state governors or local sheriffs, county sheriffs pushing back to the federal government, and then for there to be isolated pockets of bloodshed or people snapping. I mean, you've got the head of the FCC saying he won't appear before Congress. He literally won't appear and testify about what's going on. I mean, who does he think he is? Who does he think he is? He's not elected, and he won't submit to those that are elected and have oversight of the FCC. I mean, do we live under a dictatorship? We've got this elite Supreme Court telling us what to do, usurping the rights of states to define marriage. 37 states now have said you can have 2 people of the same gender be married, but it wasn't voted on by American people. Every time the American people vote, they say no. So we've got these dictators, these gods that walk among us, these tyrants, these unelected, unaccountable, pejorative, that are taking us into slavery, oppression, child killing, godless perversion. I hope that the poll is not right. We have the ability at the ballot box, but I think that there's one other element that could happen, and that's random violence. I think that random violence is going to come as a result of where we're headed, because there's going to be people that get so frustrated. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm not calling for it. I hope it doesn't happen. But I think that it's going to. I do. I think that you're going to push people so far, they're going to snap. They're just going to snap. And somebody is going to think it's their patriotic duty to bring physical harm to somebody that they deem to be a tyrant. It's on the record now. We'll see if I need to pull this out of the archive someday in the future. God have mercy on us. And God have mercy on Wheeler and Obama and the cowards in Congress who won't stop these lawless tyrants from the path that they are on. Mitch McConnell is a pillar of jello. John Boehner is an accomplice. I'll be back in a minute.
Hey, everyone's been asking me, when's Unstoppable coming out on DVD? Well, it's here. And I have created my own deluxe signature version of Unstoppable that contains not only the movie, but over 5 hours of additional curriculum and study guides for your family. It's perfect for your homeschool, educational facility, small group Bible study, and family devotions. And I'm going to share with you some of the spiritual warfare that surrounded the release of this film. This box set also includes extended scenes, new music videos, the inside scoop on the whole Facebook controversy. So what are you waiting for? I made this special version with my family in mind, and I know your family will be blessed by it too. Unstoppable 2.0 Deluxe Signature Version. Available only here at KurtCameron.com. I can't wait for you to experience what's inside.
Mohammed Emwazi. That's the name of the Londoner, a man from London, England, who has been on television numbers of times and has decapitated certain hostages using facial recognition, voice recognition technology. Two law enforcement people in America have said, this is the guy. They know who he is. The English refuse to say his name because it's an ongoing investigation and it's part of their policy. Somebody in England will leak a confirmation. One of the close friends of this guy was one of his best friends is quoted in an article saying, I know it's him. I know it's him. He left England in 2012, joined ISIS, and now is taunting Cameron, Obama, and murdering innocent people. He came from an affluent, financially prosperous family. His undergraduate degree in computer technology of some kind, computer programming. He's not a schlepper. He's intelligent. He's a fool. He's deceived. He might have demons leading him. But he's not poor. I've tried to explain to you before Obama's assertions and the State Department's assertions that this is about gripes that Middle Eastern countries have with the colonial past of the Western powers, or that they don't have job opportunities. It's such stupidity. It insults anyone who can read and write and think. Okay? If you can read and study history and think logically, you know that it's a bunch of manure. But beyond the manure that Obama is trying to pass as caviar, the facts on the ground, the studies that have been done at a collegiate PhD level show that there is no connection, none whatsoever, between economics and Islamic terrorism. None. In fact, if there was going to be, and this is just from my gut now, it would be that the people who are the more educated become terrorists. And here's why. They can read and they can think logically. If you or somebody becomes a Muslim, I mean a true Muslim, a convert, they have to say and believe there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his apostle, or Muhammad is his prophet. That's called the Shahada. That's the profession of faith. If somebody says that and believes it in the presence of a Muslim, they are a convert, they're a Muslim. So someone converts to Islam and gets in the system. All right? Those of you who are Muslims watching this, you will appreciate the fact that I'm being honest. It's a closed system. All right? It's very simple. Judaism was corrupted by Jews and monks, or Jews and rabbis. Christianity was corrupted by monks and priests and people who controlled the sacred texts. God sent Muhammad to correct the errors of time, to be the seal of all the prophets, Moses, David, John the Baptist, Jesus, etc., and to say this is the way that God wants to be worshipped. Muhammad was the best example of what a Muslim would be. And therefore, the Quran, given through Muhammad by God himself, and the lifestyle of Muhammad, the hadith, the sunnah, the traditions of the prophet, who his words, his deeds, the things he said, the things that he permitted to happen in his presence, that those two big items form Sharia law, along with the consensus of various juridical schools, legal scholars of Islam, consensus, unanimity, and the opinions of highly trained Islamic jurists, scholars. But the first two are the big ones, the Quran and the Hadith, the things that Muhammad said and did. That forms Islam. It's a closed system. Once you get in and you say, I believe Muhammad is the guy, and I believe that God gave the Quran through him, this is the word of God, then you're obligated to do what Muhammad did. Because Allah in the Quran said to Muhammad, "This day I have perfected your Islam." In the Quran, Allah said that Muhammad was the best exemplar of what it meant to be a Muslim. So since Muhammad killed people with his own hand, since Muhammad was involved in certain deeds against women and took concubines and sex slaves, etc., since Muhammad killed hostages with his own hand, well, it's a closed system. This is what Allah must want. And if I'm really devout and I really believe it, then I'm going to do the same. That is where we are, folks. And that's why this is not about money. This is about not what someone hates, it's about what someone loves. And I believe it was one of the early caliphs that said, "We have men who love death more than you love life." Because if they die in jihad, that death takes them into the presence of God with their blood smelling like musk, like an aftershave, like a cologne. And God rewards them with virgins and with plenty and with delights. That's what this is about, people. It's a closed system. It's what they believe and it's what they're acting on. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. As we stumble forward into the 2016 presidential swampland, we have an awful lot of Republican potential candidates who are popping up saying, "I would like the job." Of course, you've got the elite trying to coronate Jeb Bush. Please, 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 God, not Jeb Bush. It grieves me to say that. But anyway, I digress. Ben Carson, he is making headlines. There's a lot of people who love him. He's very articulate. He speaks courageously about the welfare state, about how it is not compassionate to take these people, pat them on the head, say, there, we'll take care of you the rest of your life. He has spoken clearly about babies. He has spoken fairly forcefully about marriage being between a man and a woman. I did see him recently, I think it was either on CNN or on MSNBC, waffle a little bit when he was under fire from the interviewer regarding some statements he made in the past regarding the abnormality of homosexual behavior. I want to make a couple of statements and really to help you. One of the reasons that we do this show is to help you to have the courage to say the truth publicly without equivocation. You can say the truth mercifully. You can say the truth like the weeping prophet Jeremiah. But you say the truth. In other words, the murder of an unborn baby, the killing of a baby inside of his or her mother's womb is an abomination. It is murder. It is the shedding of innocent blood. It is a crime that cries to God for vengeance. The number one crime. But it's also having the courage to say that same-gender marriage is evil. that it is that this very behavior that constitutes what would be same-gender matrimony, that this behavior is a sin, a mortal sin, to use Catholic theology. It is an abomination, to use biblical language. And to have the courage to say those things publicly. So that's number one, for you to be able to say it. And number two, for you to be able to assess candidates, public figures, media personalities, radio talk show hosts, through this grid of truth and courage, to see if they'll say the truth, or if they're equivocating, or they're trying to be politically correct, or they're toning it down. One of the reasons that I loved Ronald Reagan is he didn't tone it down. He said what he believed, and he fought for what he believed. And that's who we want as our next candidate. Not a party leader or a squish like Bob Dole or McCain or Romney or Bush, the Jeb. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. Why does a nice guy like me keep getting thrown in jail? I have been arrested almost 50 times and spent over a year of my life locked up in various prison facilities. And I wrote a book, many books. In fact, one of them is called Why Does a Nice Guy Like Me Keep Getting Thrown in Jail? It's a theological work, answering those who say that the church should not be involved in politics or that we should retreat. I encourage you to get it. In fact, get one and give it to your pastor. In case you missed it, the Iranian government bombed in a training exercise a replica of a United States aircraft carrier. And some other Iranians hung Obama in effigy recently as Obama goes forward to help the Iranians develop nuclear weapons. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has publicly said that Obama has failed in his promise to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. Now, it is still not too late, and it may be that Israel is going to fight on their own. It may be that they're going to go it alone and try and take out the various reactors and the various plants in Iran, with or without the U.S. helping. The problem is this: there are leaks in the Israeli government to the American government, and then the American government will leak publicly what the Jews are seeking to do. I'm convinced that if Netanyahu told our State Department, we're going to send a sortie of fighter bombers into Iran and we're going to blow up these facilities, I'm convinced that the U.S. would warn Iran, or that they would publicly say what's about to happen. God save us. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, they might use it. And it is my belief that Pakistan should not have nuclear weapons, that Iran should not have nuclear weapons, that no Islamic nation should have nuclear weapons, because they're just one coup away from the Taliban or somebody with a deep faith in the Hadith and the Sunnah coming to power and then using a nuclear weapon as a means of jihad. And thinking, well, even if I die and a lot of people die with me, we all go to heaven. And we can injure the great Satan in the process. So think that through. Get inside of the head of a Muslim with a nuclear weapon and ask yourself, what would they do with it? It's not a pretty scenario.
you.